Today I'm hoping to get through the first Daenerys chapter and maybe a couple YouTube videos. I'm not going to spend too much time talking beforehand. I'm just going to sort of get into them, you know? Hello, YouTube. Today we're going to be reading Daenerys 1 of A Game of Thrones. This is not a replacement for the original work. I recommend you go read George R. R. Martin's original work. It's very good. And obviously all rights go to George R. R. Martin and his associated publishers. Please keep in mind I'm not a professional voice actor, and so all of this reading is very amateur and for the purposes of reaction and commentary. Let's hop right in. Daenerys. Her brother held the gown up for her inspection. "This is beauty. Touch it. Go on. Caress the fabric." Dany touched it. The cloth was so smooth that it seemed to run through her fingers like water. She could not remember ever wearing anything so soft. It frightened her. She pulled her hand away. "Is it really mine?" "A gift from the Magister Illyrio," Viserys said, smiling. Her brother was in a high mood tonight. "The color will bring out the violet of your eyes, and you shall have gold as well, and jewels of all sorts. Illyrio has promised. Tonight you must look like a princess." A princess, Dany thought. She had forgotten what that was like. Perhaps she had never really known. "Why does he give us so much?" she asked. "What does he want from us?" For nigh on half a year they had lived in the Magister's house, eating his food, pampered by his servants. Dany was 13, old enough to know that such gifts seldom come without their price. Here in the free city of Pentos. "Illyrio's no fool," Viserys said. He was a gaunt young man, with nervous hands and a feverish look in his pale lilac eyes. "The Magister knows that I will not forget my friends when I come into my throne." Dany said nothing. Magister Illyrio was a dealer in spices, gemstones, dragonbone, and other less savory things. He had friends in all of the 9 free cities, it was said, and even beyond, in Vaes Dothrak and the fabled lands beside the Jade Sea. It was also said that he had never had a friend he wouldn't cheerfully sell for the right price. Dany listened to the talk in the streets, and she heard these things, but she knew better than to question her brother when he wove his web of dreams. His anger was a terrible thing when roused. Viserys called it waking the dragon. Her brother hung the gown beside the door. "Illyrio will send the slaves to bathe you. Be sure you wash off the stink of the stables. Khal Drogo has 1,000 horses. Tonight he looks for a different sort of mount." He studied her critically. "You still slouch. Straighten yourself." He pushed back her shoulders with his hand. "Let them see that you have a woman's shape now." His fingers brushed lightly over the budding breasts, and tightened on a nipple. "You will not fail me tonight. If you do, it will go hard for you. You don't want to wake the dragon, do you?" His fingers twisted her, the pinch cruelly hard through the rough fabric of her tunic. "Do you?" he repeated. "No," Dany said meekly. Her brother smiled. "Good." He touched her hair, almost with affection. "When they write the history of my reign, sweet sister, they will say it began tonight." When he was gone, Dany went to her window and looked out wistfully on the waters of the bay. The square brick towers of Pentos were black silhouettes, outlined against the setting sun. Dany could hear the singing of the red priests as they lit their night fires, and the shouts of ragged children playing games beyond the walls of the estate. For a moment, she wished she could be out there with them, barefoot and breathless and dressed in tatters, with no past and no future, and no feast to attend at Khal Drogo's manse. Somewhere beyond the sunset, across the narrow sea, lay a land of green hills and flowered plains and great rushing rivers, where towers of dark stone rose amidst magnificent blue-gray mountains, and armored knights rode to battle beneath the banners of their lords. The Dothraki called that land Reish Andali, the land of the Andals. In the Free Cities, they talked of Westeros and the Sunset Kingdoms. Her brother had a simpler name, Land, he called it. The words were like a prayer with him. If he said them enough, the gods were sure to hear. Ours by blood right, taken from us by treachery. Ours still. Ours forever. You do not steal from the dragon, oh no. The dragon remembers. And perhaps the dragon did remember, but Dany could not. She had never seen this land her brother said was theirs, this realm beyond the narrow sea. These places he talked of, Casterly Rock and the Eyrie, Highgarden and the Vale of Arryn, Dorne and the Isle of Faces. They were just words to her. Viserys had been a boy of 8 when they fled King's Landing to escape the advancing armies of the usurper. But Daenerys had been only a quickening in her mother's womb. Yes, sometimes Dany would picture the way it had been. So often had her brother told her the stories, the midnight flight to Dragonstone, the moonlight shimmering on the ship's black sails, her brother Rhaegar battling the usurper in the bloody waters of the Trident, and dying for the woman he loved, the sack of King's Landing, by the ones Viserys called the usurper's dogs, the Lords Lannister and Stark. Princess Ellie of Dorne pleading for mercy as Rhaegar's heirs was ripped from her breast and murdered before her eyes. The polished skulls of the last dragons staring down sightlessly from the walls of the throne room while the Kingslayer opened father's throat with a golden sword. She'd been born on Dragonstone 9 moons after their flight, while a raging summer storm threatened to rip the island fastness apart. They said the storm was terrible. The Targaryen fleet was smashed while it lay at anchor. The huge stone blocks were ripped from their parapets and sent hurtling into the wild waters of the narrow sea. Her mother had died birthing her, and for that, her brother Viserys had never forgiven her. She did not remember Dragonstone either. They had run again, just before the usurper's brother set sail with the new-built fleet. But then, only Dragonstone itself, the ancient seat of their house, had remained of the 7 kingdoms that had once been theirs. It would not remain for long. The garrison had been prepared to sell them to the usurper, but one night, Sir Willem Darry and 4 loyal men had broken into the nursery and stolen them both, along with their wet nurse, and set sail under the cover of darkness for the safety of the Bravosian coast. She remembered Sir Willem dimly, a great grey bear of a man, half-blind, roaring and bellowing orders from his sickbed. The servants had lived in terror of him, but he had always been kind to Dany. He called her Little Princess, and sometimes My Lady, and his hands were soft as old leather. He never left his bed, though, and the smell of sickness clung to him day and night, a hot, moist, sticky sweet odor. That was when they lived in Braavos, in the big house with the red door. Dany had her own room there, with a lemon tree outside her window. After Sir Willem had died, the servants had stolen what little money they had left, and soon after they had been put out of the big house. Dany had cried when the red door closed behind them forever. They had wandered since then, from Braavos to Myr, from Myr to Tyrosh, and on to Vohor and Volantis and Lys, never staying long in any one place. Her brother would not allow it. The usurpers hide knives are close behind them, he insisted, though Dany had never seen one. At first, the magisters and archons and merchant princes were pleased to welcome the last Targaryens into their homes and tables. But as the years passed and the usurper continued to sit upon the Iron Throne, doors closed and their lives grew meaner. Years passed, they had been forced to sell their last few treasures. And now, even the coin they had gotten from Mother's crown had gone, and the alleys and wine skins of Pentos, they called her brother the Beggar King. Then he did not want to know what they called her. "We will have it all back someday, sweet sister," he would promise her. Sometimes his hands shook when he talked about it. The jewels and the silks, Dragonstone and King's Landing, the Iron Throne and the 7 Kingdoms, all they have taken from us. We will have it back. Viserys lived for that day. All that Daenerys wanted back was the big house with the red door, the lemon tree outside her window, the childhood she had never known. There came a soft knock on her door. "Come," Dany said, turning away from the window. Illyrio's servants entered, bowed, and set about their business. They were slaves, a gift from one of the Magister's many Dothraki friends. There was no slavery in the free city of Pentos. Nonetheless, there were slaves. The old woman, small and gray as a mouse, never said a word. But the girl made up for it. She was Illyrio's favorite, a fair-haired, blue-eyed wench of 16 who chattered constantly as she worked. They filled her bath with hot water brought up from the kitchen and scented it with fragrant oils. The girl pulled the rough cotton tunic over Dany's head and helped her into the tub. The water was scalding hot, but Daenerys did not flinch or cry out. She liked the heat. It made her feel clean. Besides, her brother had often told her that it was never too hot for a Targaryen. "Ours is the house of the dragon," he would say. "The fire's in our blood." The old woman washed her long, silver-pale hair and gently combed out the snags, all in silence. The girl scrubbed her back and her feet, and told her how lucky she was. "Drogo is so rich that even his slaves wear golden collars. 100,000 men ride in his calzone, and his place in Beis Dothrak has 200 rooms and doors of solid silver." There was more like that, so much more. Why, a handsome man the cow was, so tall and fierce, fearless in battle, the best rider ever to mount a horse, a demon archer. Daenerys said nothing. She would always assumed that she would wed Viserys when she came of age. For centuries, the Targaryens had married brother to sister, since Aegon the Conqueror had taken his sisters to bride. The line must be kept pure, Viserys had told her 1,000 times. Theirs was the king's blood, the golden blood of old Valyria, the blood of the dragon. Dragons did not mate with the beasts of the field, and Targaryens did not mingle their blood with that of lesser men. Yet now Viserys schemed to sell her to a stranger, a barbarian. When she was clean, the slaves helped her from the water and toweled her dry. The girl brushed her hair until it shone like molten silver, while the old woman anointed her with the spice-flower perfume of the Dothraki plains, a dab on each wrist, behind her ears, on the tips of her breasts, and one last one, cool on her lips, down between her legs. They dressed her in the wisps of the Magister Illyrio had sent up, and then the gown, a deep plum silk to bring out the violet in her eyes. The girl slid the gilded sandals onto her feet, while the old woman fixed the tiara on her hair, and slid golden bracelets, crusted with amethysts, around her wrists. Last of all came the collar, a heavy, golden torque, emblazoned with ancient Valyrian glyphs. "Now you look all a princess," the girl said breathlessly when they were done. Dany glanced at her image in the silvered looking glass that Illyrio had so thoughtfully provided. A princess, she thought. But she remembered what the girl had said, how Khal Drogo was so rich that even slaves wore golden collars. She felt a sudden chill, and gooseflesh pimpled her bare arms. Her brother was waiting in the cool of the entry hall, seated on the edge of the pool, his hand trailing in the water. He rose when she appeared and looked her over critically. "Stand there," he told her. "Turn around, yes. Good. You look regal," Magister Illyrio said, stepping through an archway. He moved with surprising delicacy for such a massive man. Beneath loose garments of flame-colored silk, rolls of fat jiggled as he walked. Gemstones glittered on every finger. And his man had oiled his forked yellow beard until it shone like real gold. "May the Lord of Light shower you with blessings on this most fortunate day, Princess Daenerys," the Magister said as he took her hand. He bowed his head, showing a thin glimpse of crooked yellow teeth through the gold of his beard. "She is a vision, Your Grace, a vision," he told her brother. "Drogo will be enraptured." "She's too skinny," Viserys said. His hair, the same silver blonde as hers, had been pulled back tightly behind his head and fastened with a dragonbone brooch. It was a severe look that emphasized the hard, gaunt lines of his face. He rested his hand on the hilt of the sword that Illyrio had lent him, and said, "Are you sure that Khal Drogo likes his women this young?" "She has had her blood. She is old enough for the Khal," Illyrio told him, not for the first time. "Look at her, that silver gold hair, those purple eyes. She is the blood of old Valyria, no doubt, and highborn, daughter of the old king, sister to the new. She cannot fail to entrance our Drogo." When he released her hand, Daenerys found herself trembling. "I suppose," her brother said doubtfully, "the savages have queer tastes. Boys, horses, sheep. Best not suggest this to Khal Drogo," Illyrio said. Anger flashed in her brother's lilac eyes. "Do you take me for a fool?" The magistrate bowed slightly. "I take you for a king. Kings lack the caution of common men. My apologies, if I've given offense." He turned away and clapped his hands for his bearers. The streets of Pentos were pitch dark when they set out in Illyrio's elaborately carved palanquin. 2 servants went ahead to light their way, carrying ornate oil lanterns with panes of pale blue glass, while a dozen strong men hoisted the poles onto their shoulders. It was warm and close inside behind the curtains. Dany could smell the stench of Illyrio's pallid flesh through his heavy perfumes. Her brother, sprawled out on his pillows beside her, never noticed. His mind was away across the Narrow Sea. "We won't need his whole Khalasar," Viserys said. His fingers toyed with the hilt of his borrowed blade, though Dany knew he had never used a sword in earnest. 10,000, that would be enough. I could sweep the 7 kingdoms with 10,000 Dothraki Svinas. The realm will rise for its rightful king, Tyrell, Redwyne, Darry, Greyjoy. They have no more love for the usurper than I do. The Dornishmen burn to avenge Elia and her children, and the small folk will be with us. They cry out for their king." He looked at Illyrio anxiously. "They do, don't they?" "They are your people, and they love you well," Illyrio said amiably. "In holdfasts all across the realm, men lift secret toasts to your health, while women sew dragon banners and hide them against the day of your return from across the water." He gave a massive shrug. "Or so my agents tell me." Dany had no agents, no way of knowing what anyone was doing or thinking across the Narrow Sea, but she mistrusted Illyrio's sweet words. So she mistrusted everything about Illyrio. Her brother was nodding eagerly, however. "I shall kill the usurper myself," he promised. He promised who had never killed anyone. "As he killed my brother Rhaegar, and Lannister too, the Kingslayer, for what he did to my father." "That would be most fitting," Magister Illyrio said. Then he saw the smallest hint of a smile playing around his full lips. But her brother did not notice. Nodding, he pushed back a curtain and stared off into the night, and Dany knew he was fighting the battle of the Trident once again. The 9-towered manse of Khal Drogo sat beside the water of the bay. Its high brick walls overgrown with pale ivy. It had been given to the Khal by the magisters of Pentos, Illyrio told them. The free cities were always generous with the horse lords. "It's not that we fear these barbarians," Illyrio would explain with a smile. "The Lord of Light would hold our city walls against 1,000,000 Dothraki, or so the Red Priests promise. Yet why take the chances when their friendship comes so cheap?" Their palanquin was stopped at the gate, the curtains pulled roughly back by one of the house guards. He had the copper skin and dark almond eyes of a Dothraki, but his face was hairless, and he wore the spiked bronze cap of the Unsullied. He looked them over coldly. Magister Illyrio growled something to him in the rough Dothraki tongue. The guardsman replied in the same voice, and waved them through the gate. Dany noticed that her brother's hand was clenched tightly around the hilt of his borrowed sword. He looked almost as frightened as she felt. "Insolent eunuch!" Viserys muttered as the palanquin lurched up toward the manse. Magister Illyrio's words were honey. "Many important men will be at the feast tonight. Such men have enemies. The Khal must protect his guests. Yourself chief among them, your grace. No doubt the usurper would pay well for your head." "Oh, yes," Viserys said darkly. "He has tried, Illyrio. I promise you that. His hired knives follow us everywhere. I'm the last dragon, and he will not sleep easy while I live." The palanquin slowed and stopped. The curtains were thrown back, and the slave offered a hand to help the Nares out. His color, she noted, was ordinary bronze. Her brother followed, one hand still clenched hard around his sword hilt. It took 2 strong men to get Magister Illyrio back on his feet. Inside the manse, the air was heavy with the scent of spices, pinchfire and sweet lemon and cinnamon. They were escorted across the entry hall, where a mosaic of colored glass depicted the doom of Illyria. Oil burned in black iron lanterns. All along the walls, beneath an arch of twinning stone leaves, a eunuch sang their coming. "Viserys of House Targaryen, the third of his name," he called in a high, sweet voice. "King of the Andals and the Rhoynar, the First Men, Lord of the 7 Kingdoms, and Protector of the Realm. His sister Daenerys Stormborn, Princess of Dragonstone. His honorable host, Illyrio Mapatus, Magister of the free city of Pentos." They stepped past the eunuch into a pillared courtyard, overgrown in pale ivy. Moonlight painted the leaves in shades of bone and silver as the guests drifted among them. Many were Dothraki horse lords, big men with red-brown skin, their drooping mustachios bound in metal rings, their black hair oiled and braided and hung with bells. Yet among them moved bravos and sellswords from Pentos, Emir, and Tyrosh, a red priest even fatter than Illyrio, hairy men from the port of Ibn, and lords from the Summer Isles with skin as black as ebony. Daenerys looked at them all in wonder, and realized, with a sudden start of fear, that she was the only woman there. Illyrio whispered to them. "Those 3 are Drogo's blood riders there," he said. "By the pillars Calmoro, with his son, Rogoro. The man with the green beard is brother to Arkhan of Tyrosh, and the man behind him is Ser Jorah Mormont." The last name caught Daenerys. "A knight?" "No less," Illyrio smiled through his beard. "Anointed with the 7 oils by the High Septon himself." "What is he doing here?" she blurted. "The usurper wanted his head," Illyrio told them. "Some trifling affront. He sold some poachers to a Tyroshi slaver instead of giving them to the Night's Watch. Absurd law, a man should be able to do as he likes with his own chattel." "I shall wish to speak with Ser Jorah before the night is done," her brother said. Dany found herself looking at the knight curiously. He was an older man, past 40 and balding, but still strong and fit. Instead of silks and cottons, he wore wool and leather. His tunic was a dark green, embroidered with the likeness of a black bear standing on 2 legs. She was still looking at the strange man from the homeland she had never known, when Magister Illyrio placed a moist hand on her bare shoulder. "Over there, sweet princess," he whispered. "There's the Khal himself." Dany wanted to run and hide, but her brother was looking at her, and if she displeased him, she knew he would wake the dragon. Anxiously, she turned and looked at the man Viserys hoped would ask to wed her before the night was done. The slave girl had not been far wrong, she thought. Khal Drogo was a head taller than the tallest man in the room, yet somehow light on his feet, as graceful as the panther in Illyrio's menagerie. He was younger than she'd thought, no more than 30. His skin was the color of polished copper, his thick mustachios bound with gold and bronze rings. "I must go and make my submissions," Magister Illyrio said. "Wait here, I shall bring him to you." Her brother took her by the arm as Illyrio waddled over to the cow, his fingers squeezing so hard that they hurt. "Do you see his braid, sweet sister?" Drogo's braid was black as midnight and heavy with scented oils, hung with tiny bells that rang softly as he moved. It swung well past his belt, below even his buttocks, the end of it brushing against the back of his thighs. "You see how long it is," Viserys said. "When Dothraki are defeated in combat, they cut off their braids in disgrace, so the world will know their shame. Khal Drogo has never lost a fight. He is Aegon the Dragon Lord come again, and you will be his queen." Then he looked at Khal Drogo. His face was hard and cruel, his eyes as cold and dark as onyx. Her brother hurt her sometimes when she woke the dragon, but he did not frighten her the way this man frightened her. "I don't want to be his queen," she heard herself say in a small, thin voice. "Please, please, Viserys, I don't want to. I want to go home." "Home?" He kept his voice low, but she could hear the fear in his tone. how are we to go home, sweet sister? They took our home from us. He drew her into the shadows, out of sight, his fingers digging into her skin. How are we to go home? He repeated, meaning King's Landing and Dragonstone and all the realm they had lost. Then he had only meant their rooms in Magister Illyrio's estate. No true home, surely, though all they had, but her brother did not want to hear that. There was no room there for him. Even the big house with the red door had not been home for him. His fingers dug hard into her arm, demanding an answer. I don't know, she said at last, her voice breaking. Tears welled in her eyes. I do, he said sharply. We go home with an army, sweet sister, with Khal Drogo's army. That is how we go home, and if you must wed him and bed him for that, you will. He smiled at her. I'd let his whole Khalasar fuck you, if need be, sweet sister. All 40,000 men, and the horses too, if that was what it took to get my army. Be grateful it is only Drogo. In time, you may even learn to like him. Now dry your eyes, Illyrio is bringing him over, and he will not see you crying. Then he turned and saw that it was true. Magister Illyrio, all smiles and bows, was escorting Khal Drogo over to where they stood. She brushed away unfallen tears with the back of her hand. Smile, Ceres whispered nervously, his hand falling to the hilt of his sword. And stand up straight. Let him see that you have breasts. Gods know you have little enough as it is. Daenerys smiled and stood up straight. Okay. That was Daenerys 1 of A Game of Thrones. A very good chapter, I think. You get introduced to the Eastern Continent and the Targaryens and Illyrio. A large, rich, fat man who is not to be trusted, who has more going on behind the scenes. A common archetype that you'll see throughout the Game of Thrones series. Funnily enough, something I noticed reading this chapter is, while on first read and first reaction, Illyrio obviously is very, he's honeyed, he's sweet, and untrustworthy, and he's lying straight up to Viserys. But a lot of the things Viserys says don't turn out to be all that wrong. The Dornish do still seethe over the death of Elia Martell. And the houses, such as the Tarleys, for example, are still Targaryen loyalists. So, while Viserys is initially portrayed as a fool, he's not nearly, I think, as much fool as the books, give him as. And obviously, at this point, we see Daenerys at her sort of weakest and lowest, and she's going to be built up throughout the course of the series into someone strong, powerful, and inspiring. But right now, she's very much just a scared little girl, Which makes what happens in the following chapters all the more messed up. Okay, thank you for sticking around if you have. If you liked the video, please like, comment, subscribe, all that junk. And I'll be seeing you again later. Bye. Oh, okay. Oh, let me have a big drink after reading that. It's the time. I can fit in one YouTube video, I think. Okay. Actually, what I'll do is I'll go to... Let's see, I'll rename that. Cool, that way I'll be able to... Sorry, I just labeled the video file to make it easier to find later. Well, let's go and try and do...
Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, pause that there. That. This should be fun. Hello, YouTube. Today we'll be watching Shoe0nHead's video, How Did We Get Here? Please go watch the original first, link down in the description, etc. I've been a fan of Shoe0nHead's for a decent while, but this is my first time actually reacting to a video from her. And I'm pretty excited to do it. I may as well just jump right in, see what we've got. It looks to be one of the, sort of a longer one compared to... I don't know, actually, the average length of these videos has been going up slowly and steadily for years, I think. Without further ado, let's just hop right in. Alright, 3, 2, 1...
Ladies and gentlemen, I am here to inform you that the rumors are indeed true. The Democrats have struck back. In the New Jersey government...
They did. They managed to pull off some decent wins. I'll follow politics a little bit. Not the most, not the least. But enough to know what's going on generally.
Governor's race, the Democrat won. In the Virginia governor's race, the Democrat won. And in the New York City race, Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani defeated Andrew Cuomo to become the next mayor of America's largest city. But the question on everyone's mind is, was it just a fluke? Just easy wins in blue cities and states? Or is there something more to this? Is this a sign of things to come? Is the Democratic Party finally—
I don't know, if you're a Republican, then right now it's just a fluke. If you're a Democrat, then right now it's we are so back moment. I don't think there's a real way of telling until the midterms actually come closer. And then we'll be able to see whether it was or not. I don't think modeling it out based on this is going to really tell you all that much.
Turning their losing streak around? Are they actually listening to the people now? Did they finally learn their lesson? No. Thanks for watching.
Okay, guys. Great video. I'll see you again next time. Alright.
My last 3 videos about electoral politics were warning the Democratic Party that young men were moving right because the party f***ing sucks and was becoming the young men eat and die movement, spanking the Democratic Party for losing because they elected one of the most unlikable shittiest candidates.
Yeah, it's not that the Democrat Party, like, explicitly does that, it's that it won't... There are lots of figures within the Democrat Party that do that, and there's no real pushback from the party as a whole. Or just liberals as a whole in general. There's some people who push back against it, but generally there's not. And if you do push back against it, then you get a hostile response from left-wingers. So it's not that the party necessarily is anti-men, but it has... It's anti-being pro-men, is a better description of it. And I don't know. I guess you could try and say something similar for the Republicans on the opposite side with women, but that depends on how much you think modern feminism is actually pro-women or how much it's not. It really depends. But I could see an argument for that as well.
candidates while offering absolutely nothing to voters, and defending the voters from the wrath of a bunch of liberal streamer man-children calling the voters.
Oh, also, the Democrat Party has no idea how to actually market to men. Their best are TV commercials with just random associated men like drinking beer going, "I'm a man, and I think Democrats." Yeah. They're not great at it. No, you want to get men, you need to inspire a feeling in the men, like make them feel epic, I guess. Make them feel epic, passionate about voting for your candidate. Not trying to hey, see, look, men can vote for us too. We're going, hey, you should feel guilty if you vote for the other guys. I don't know. I think they'll probably figure it out within the next few years. But don't quote me on that.
Stupid and evil for daring not to vote for Hillary Clinton in brownface. But the thesis for all three of those videos was basically the same. As the right embraces working class populism, the Democratic Party and the left will continue to fade into irrelevancy. But
that's really interesting. I'm sorry for pausing so much. This is reaction and commentary on the video, okay? If you just want to watch the video without any pauses, go watch it without me here as a talking head going blah, blah, blah. But I was going to say the shift of Republican to working class is a very interesting gradual shift that we've seen. Because if you look back at media from the 80s, let's say, I remember specifically in a show called Family Ties, very great sitcom. I love Family Ties. But you had, I think it was an uncle who was a Republican, but he switched up to a blue-collar job, and that made one of the main characters, Alex, who was sort of the stand-in conservative of the show, go concerned and worried and like, wait, you're still a Republican, right? Back then, of course, Democrat was associated very strongly with working class. Now it's associated strongly with higher education and welfare programs, I guess, where as Republicans, I think that the sort of MAGA movement and Trump effect is responsible in large part for the shift, because it got a lot of working class voters to become staunch Republicans, which in turn ended up shifting a lot more of the party's policy away from sort of business school laissez-faire economics more towards a populist working class direction. Which, of course, anything the Republican Party does, the Democrat Party has to do the opposite of. And they end up becoming less and less working class. At least in rhetoric. There's a lot of people out there who argue that their policies are still more working class than Republicans, but I'm not going to weigh in on that.
I also predicted in those last videos there might be an eventual pendulum swing, and it might be happening much sooner than I predicted. Like, how did we go from Republicans winning the popular vote, in part thanks to a lot of the young people voting, to a bunch of data showing those same young people dropping their support for the GOP already? But the interesting thing is, those young people don't seem to be moving to the Democratic Party either. Where are they going? And do the Democrats have a plan to scoop these people up? Yes, they do, and they called it, I'm not kidding, deciding to win. Deciding to win, as if the whole time...
yes, let's just decide to win. Let's just decide. I think the reason a lot of young people are shifting away from politics is because it's so oversaturated. If you have politics in people's face all the time, people get fatigued from it. They're going to become less passionate about it, especially young people. Okay, I see the trend of young people become less political is going to increase so long as politics keeps being front and face in social media and a lot of stuff. Sure, it manages to shift young people more into your camp instead of somewhere in the middle or having a more mixed views, but it also alienates a larger portion of the voters as well. So you're getting more people hard in your camp, but you're getting less voters overall, I think. I don't know if that's backed up by actual polls or studies, but that's sort of my idea of why young people aren't engaging as much with it anymore. At least Gen Z, as compared to when millennials were the young people, they were very sort of engaged, and they were one of the biggest contributing factors to Democratic dominance during that age.
And they have just been simply deciding to lose. It was a choice, guys. They changed their mind and they want to win now. In this video, I will talk about why I think Zohran Mamdani won. We will go through the Democrat Party's plan to decide to win. We will briefly talk about the rise of the political commentator Nick Fuentes, the MAGA Civil War, and what I like to call the inevitable rise of shoe-cialism. If that sounds interesting, stick around. If it doesn't, you can leave. It's not like I'll miss you or anything.
Baka.
Baka. And a lot of you are not very interested in politics. You come here for the fun Reddit slop, the men versus women content. Yeah, I know. But unfortunately, politics kind of seeps into your lives whether you want it to or not. So you might as well be entertained when you hear about it and have some fun with it when you can. And I just so happen to have the perfect app for that. So before we get into this political deep dive, let's quickly give a shout out to today's
Ground News, right? Yep.
Sponsor.
Here we go.
One of my favorite sponsors to work with. Ground News.
Yeah.
Ground News is a website and an app that gives readers a transparent and easy way to read news from all across the political spectrum.
Let's sit back. Let's watch left, the ad,
right,
you know. She
center.
puts work into these.
Every story
See,
comes
she
with a
changed
quick visual
costume,
breakdown of political bias that helps you understand the full story and makes sure you're getting both sides. One of my favorite features on Ground News is the blind spot feature, which shows you news stories that have been covered by one side of the spectrum and ignored by the other. For example, here is a story about how the White House apparently intervened in an Andrew Tate federal probe. 29 news sources covered this. 86% of them were left-wing. None were right-wing. Ground News also makes it really easy to compare headlines to see how political bias can affect framing. For example, this feud between Elon Musk and Billie Eilish. This right-wing headline reads, Elon Musk claps back at Billie Eilish after she slams him for hoarding wealth. And this left-wing article frames the same story as, Elon Musk's comebacks are as flat as his attempts at jokes. Very different vibes going on here. I have been using Ground News since 2021 because it is just a great and fun way to keep up with the news. But don't just take my word for it. Even the Nobel Peace Center.
You know, I've tried Ground News, at least the free version, and I don't know, it just doesn't give me enough news articles or topics, you know? It doesn't. When I read Ground News, I don't feel like I'm actually keeping up with what's going on the day-to-day. So I don't really use it all that much. Instead, I don't know. I sort of use Twitter, check up on what like certain political commentators are saying, and that usually lets me know if anything big or controversial happens, at least politics-wise. If something else newsworthy happens, I usually hear about it through some channel anyway.
Called it an excellent way to stay informed, avoid echo chambers, and expand your worldview. Best of all, I am currently offering 40% off their Vantage plan, which is the plan I use to access all their amazing features. So go to ground.news/shoe or use the QR code here on screen, or use the link in the video description down below. It's only like $5 a month, which is basically the price of like a coffee. You can also gift a subscription to somebody. Just select the Vantage subscription, add a customized gift message, and Ground News will send it straight to their inbox where they can activate it. The perfect Christmas present for your out-of-touch uncle who gets all his news from Facebook. So thank you Ground News for sponsoring this video, and thank you the viewer for not skipping the ad. Right? Now...
Right. That's right, the longest portion of this video, uninterrupted, is going to be her ad segment. That's right. We're just going to blankly stare at the screen while it happens, because we watch people's ad segments when we make reactions, okay? Especially if the videos are relatively fresh.
Let's get back to the video. For those of you familiar with the Shoe0nHead channel, you know I've harshly criticized the Democratic Party for all my career. Some say too harshly. Frankly, I don't care. And some say I'm not harsh enough on the Republicans. First of all, true, but let's be honest, that's not why you come here. You go to Kyle Kalinske for that. Just like you go to Destiny to see opinions you can hear on CNN, or to Hassan for dog training tips. You come here to hear, golly gee willikers, I'm left-wing, and the Democrats have gone crazy. That's the shit you're here for. But are the Democrats actually getting their shit together? Or did they simply get lucky in a few blue areas? One of those blue areas being my city, New York, where Democratic Socialist candidate Zohran Mamdani won the election and will become the new mayor. And a lot of people are like really confused about how this happened. And if you're one of those people, you really need to...
I think he probably won because he's, good looking, stylish, and social media savvy, you know? Probably those reasons. Also, he was very good at appealing to minorities within the city, which of course gave him a huge boost.
Keep watching. If you don't understand why Mamdani won, I'm sorry to say, but you're kind of like the liberals in 2016 who didn't understand why Trump won. It's actually extremely understandable why Zohran Mamdani won, and it's not just because New York is full of commies or whatever. He is objectively the best Democratic candidate that they've had in a very, very long time. Like, I know the bar is in hell there, but he's young, he's energetic, he's charismatic, and people are really tired of the White House doubling as a retirement home. And of course, I like many of his economic policies. I like the universal childcare thing, the transportation, flipping off the Christopher Columbus statue. That's the shit I don't like. Bitch, that's our fucking guy. He was a brave Italian explorer who discovered America, and in this house, Christopher Columbus is a hero. End of story. I've said this many times, but I don't think
A-tier Sopranos reference. A-tier.
the good left-wing policies can even exist alongside the bad left-wing policies. Like, I don't know how you can have free transportation but also be soft on crime. Like, I don't know, like, in what world does that work out? You can't have nice, clean, free transportation if a bunch of drug addicts and violent felons are going around stabbing people and setting them on fire. You can't have nice things if you don't have rules to enforce those nice things. You know what I mean? It's always such a breath of fucking fresh air when I go back to visit my family in the suburbs of Long Island and I go to the CVS and the fucking toothpaste is free from their plexiglass prisons. I shouldn't have to wait 10 minutes for some poor wagey to come unlock the cagey so I can buy fucking shampoo. We don't have to live that way. Maybe he'll do great, or maybe he gets into power and immediately cucks to the establishment like some other people. I don't like to talk about it. I just don't know how
Look, obviously, every time someone goes from the trail into power, almost without fail, they moderate their actual policy positions to make them workable, make them be able to get through without extreme backlash or pushback. So he's going to moderate somewhat for his time in office, but also, if he implements law, I see the free transportation thing going to have some probably pretty bad consequences for the quality of the transportation. I mean, it might not. I could be wrong. But if he doesn't crack down on crime, and for you people who say, oh, but crime is just caused by poor material conditions. No, that's not how it works. That's not what we see when we actually look at crime statistics. If that were true, Alaska would not have one of the highest violent crime rates in the states, despite having one of the highest average GDPs, not GDP per capita. There we go. No, it's not the average GDP, is it, that they're the high one? It's average earnings that they have high. It doesn't matter. Alaska has people there are relatively wealthy, but also have a very high violent crime rate. And look at this. People aren't stealing necessities a lot of the time. Okay? You can say that's a disingenuous argument, but if it were caused by starvation and poverty, you would see a lot more stealing of food rather than PlayStations.
the hell anyone thought Andrew Cuomo was going to win. He killed a bunch of grandmas during COVID.
As you admitted this week, you personally altered the state health department report to undercount the death total, to hide the death total, and then evaded and lied to these families for 5 years. So
You killed a shit
It's true, Andrew Cuomo does suck. Oh, man.
ton of people. Bro, what? Plus, he doesn't even live in New York City. He doesn't live in the city he's running to be mayor of. Cuomo just kind of expected to win based on name recognition alone and being like, hey, at least I'm not the other guy. Sound familiar? Trump actually offered a vision. Make America great again. Mamdani offered a vision. A New York City you can afford. So people took a chance on him. People wanted something different. Andrew Cuomo, he had no vision or anything. Oh man, I love tuning into a debate about New York City and 80% of it is about another f***ing country.
The first foreign visit by a mayor of New York is always considered significant. Where would you go first?
First visit, I would visit the Holy Land.
I would go to Israel.
I'd make my 4th trip to Israel.
Mr. Mamdani.
Okay, why is this a question for mayoral candidates? I mean, I guess there's a sort of precedent and tradition set up of New York mayors doing, going out to other places, but this isn't important to the voters.
I would stay in New York City. My plans are to address New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs and focus on that.
Mr. Mamdani, can I just jump in? Would you visit Israel?
That was the exact moment I knew Zoran was going to win. Bro was just surrounded by NPCs.
He gave the only common sense answer there to get people to actually like you. Yes. Where would you visit? Yes, Israel. I'd visit Israel. Okay. I don't even have any. I'm not even like an anti-Israel guy, but I know that that's a tone-deaf answer. Don't say, oh, I'd visit. Say, oh, I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on the sea. Like Zoran and Dominic. Okay, yeah, I see why he won.
I love how they're like, where would you go? And Zoran was like, I'm gonna stay here. And instead of being like, no, Zoran, the question was, where would you go? They're like, why wouldn't you go to Israel? Like, that's the answer to the question. Like, that's just the default answer to that question. His win was very much in part a direct response to the affordability crisis that many Americans are facing. So what is the GOP's answer to the affordability crisis? Oh, great news, guys. There is no affordability crisis. It doesn't exist. It's all in your head, silly. Need to save money? Simply don't buy your grandmother a Christmas present this year.
Budget. You need a plan. Also remember, adults don't need gifts, okay? Focus on the people in your life who are age 3 to 18. Grandma doesn't need slippers. If they don't live by you, don't get them a gift. Now's not the time to spend and break the banks.
Zoran's win was also
terrible advice. I'm still waiting to see how the tariff stuff plays out long term. I'm pretty skeptical of it. I haven't been paying super close attention, but I generally prefer more free trade stuff. But I do like, in principle, I like the idea of reciprocal tariffs to try and encourage other countries to drop tariffs on the US. But I'm not a huge fan of tariffs as just the means to bring in more income in and of itself. I think they're a much better negotiating tool. But I don't know, maybe they'll bring in a massive amount of revenue, enough to offset the cost of the tariffs. It could be the case. I'm not an economist.
basically a direct response to the housing crisis in America. So what is the GOP's response to the pie-in-the-sky, commie gobbledygook that Zoran Mamdani is saying? Surely they have a better solution.
Here we go. The White House is floating this idea. Bill Pulte is saying, thanks to President Trump, we can indeed work on the 50-year mortgage, a complete game.
Terrible idea. Absolutely terrible. No, people hear 50-year mortgage and they want to die, okay? No. Look, I'm not for a bunch of federal regulation on everything, but I would be open to an idea of pushing restrictions on secondary properties as investments. I think really, when you're buying a house, you should be buying a home and not an investment. And I get for a long time, it was one of the major ways people were able to sort of scale up by buying a house, waiting for the equity to go up, and then selling it. And that was a solid way for people to build wealth for a long time. But equity can't keep rising forever and have people still able to build houses and afford houses. You need... I don't know if it would crash the economy. It would probably have very negative effects on the economy, but I would not be opposed to regulation to make buying houses as homes the majority way it happens. I just hate the idea of buying houses as investments. It seems icky.
Game changer. How does that work in dollars? Here you go. 30-year fixed mortgage right now. You're paying $2,038 a month, principal and interest on a $400,000 home. At the bottom, under 50 years, you'd save a couple $100 a month at $1,822 principal and interest. That is proposed. Do you like?
That's barely any. What? 10 years. Oh, here, save like $100 if you take another 10 years. Jeez. My gosh, how about we get states with high regulation on building houses to lower their regulations on building houses? How about we stop a lot of big mega corporations from buying up huge amounts of property to then sell at artificially inflated prices? How about we encourage in rural areas the building of new homes in places that are no longer good for farmland anymore? I mean, I don't know. You know what? If it were as easy as my suggestions, it would have probably been done by now. Okay? It's probably just one of those problems where people are like, there's no easy solution, and eventually there's a bubble that's going to burst and ruin stuff for everyone for a while, and we're just trying to delay that. It's probably what's going on.
This idea.
I do not like this idea.
Not lowering prices, not building more housing, no, just being a good little slave to the bank for 50 years. You might as well be a rentoid forever in this case. Like, at least you don't have to fix your own dishwasher. You will own nothing and be happy. Doesn't that sound great, Gen Z? Vote for us. We'll release the Epstein files and finally drain the swamp. Awesome. Finally, justice. Here it comes, the Epstein files phase 1. We got all your favorite E-celebs here. Don't you think that's a little tacky? I mean, like, this is an international child trap. The Epstein files are on my desk. Oh, that's great.
This was one of the most poorly handled things in all of recent American politics. I mean, really, I'm still waiting on the Epstein file. I mean, I think there was a bill that recently passed to, release a bunch of Epstein file stuff, but it'll probably happen with half of it as just black bars. If it does happen at all.
That's what we've been waiting for. Well? Oh, they don't exist. Wait, what? Yeah, the Epstein files don't exist. They're a Democrat hoax. But you just said, hey, what the fuck? That's my wallet. Sorry, Israel needs new weapons. Bye. Psst. What do you want, Democrat? Vote for us. Why? What do you have to offer? Hey, that's my wallet again. What are you people doing? Sorry. Israel needs new weapons. Bye. The Epstein file.
Very anti-Israel skit, but very, very funny skit. Look, I don't care if you're pro-Israel, anti-Israel, whatever. That's an amazing American politics skit. That's funny.
Files are a really big deal. This is not a partisan issue. You should absolutely care about an international child trafficking blackmail operation consisting of the most powerful people in the world. And anyone telling you to move on is coping, gaslighting, or in on it. If whatever is in there is so damning that it is a national security risk, the people deserve to know. Like, I don't know about you, but if we are paying taxes to a bunch of satanic pedophiles, I would like to know that
Look, I mean, I think 95% of the entire population is for more transparency in government. Okay? That's a winning issue every time. More transparency. But 95% of DC is against that, so good luck, right?
that is information I would like to know. Like, I already know we're doing that, but I would like some confirmation. Okay, so literally as I am filming this, Trump is saying he is releasing the Epstein files. So I guess they weren't a hoax. I'm gonna be so honest. I have no idea what the f is going on, you guys. I'm sure when this video gets posted, there's already gonna be more things that have happened. Also, Mike Johnson apparently said they need to make changes to the files to make sure we, quote, don't do permanent damage to the political system. If releasing the Epstein files...
God, if it does permanent political damage to the... If it does political damage to this political... Permanent damage to the political system, that makes me feel like it should be released more, like, oh, this is stuff we should really know about. This isn't just celebrities. This is, oh, this would affect how we vote. Who we're voting for. Come on. Terrible explanation. Is even if you're against releasing it for some non-fishy reason, that's a terrible explanation.
Would do damage to the political system, then so be it. Then it deserves to be damaged. It deserves to be destroyed. Just release the files. After all, if you have nothing to hide, you have...
I don't know, if you need to come up with a reason for censoring some of it, then the reason you should come up with that sounds better than that, I'm not saying you should, but a better answer for that would have been, oh, releasing it unredacted would have endangered, informants who helped us come to blah, 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 okay? Don't say it would endanger the politicians that no one likes. That's basically what he said. Or that people do like. Look, I don't think you actually have to be that talented at politicking to be in politics. You just have to know how not to put your foot in your mouth. And even then... Even if you don't know how to not put your foot in your mouth, you can still get in. Look, it can be tricky to not put your foot in your mouth sometimes, but the level of feet and mouth in this is quite high.
Nothing to fear. Isn't that right, government? But it wasn't just the Epstein files thing that has MAGA feeling a little demoralized lately.
And does that mean the H-1B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration? Because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we have plenty of talented people
here.
No, you don't. We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have certain talents, and people have to learn.
We've talked about this a few times on this channel, actually very recently in the male loser epidemic video. The no talented Americans thing is a myth pushed on us by corpos and...
Look, say, oh, we're doing away with H-1B visas, and we're going to be more selective with immigration, but we will still have working visas for people who are specialists, I guess. A limited number. I don't know. There was a better way he could phrase it than that. Jeez.
Billionaires, so they can hire foreign workers who will work for less money and won't unionize. Worker drones who will work under the coercion of deportation, essentially creating infinite scab labor. Even though there are so many Americans in these fields looking for jobs. But those spoiled Americans will ask for a living wage so they can live in a 600-foot square apartment. How dare they? We can't do that. So import 1 billion immigrants. After all, it's good for business.
Folks are not thrilled about this idea of hundreds of thousands of foreign students in the United States.
If we were to cut that in half, which perhaps makes some people happy, you would have half the colleges in the United States go out of business.
So what?
And it's not that.
Good. I mean, good. If their business model is relying on foreign students. But I've thought for a long time the college business model, they really need to update stuff. Okay. At the moment, most colleges get their funding from foreign students and from alumni donations. Which is ridiculous because the students who go there, who are domestic students, also pay a ridiculous amount for the education there. I don't know. I've heard people suggest that you need to cut federal aid to colleges, that it's just inflating college prices. I don't know about that. That seems risky. But we've got to be able to incentivize colleges in some way to be able to stand on their own two legs. And I don't have a huge thing against having, foreign students come in to learn from colleges. But they shouldn't be getting preference over American students in a lot of cases just because they bring in more money. And I don't know, that's not happening everywhere, but I think it does happen in some cases, especially with some colleges. Now let's continue.
I want them, but I view it as a business.
Unfortunately, America does feel like nothing but 3 corporations in a trench coat. But America is not a business. America is not a corporation. It is a nation. The contrast of what Trump is saying here compared to how he used to talk is staggering. Republicans embracing populism, at least rhetorically, is what gave rise to Donald Trump and fundamentally changed the way Republicans do politics in America. If you go back and watch the debates of Donald Trump in 2016, it's crazy.
We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East. They lied. They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
All right.
I remember being like, damn, that's not how politicians in general really talked at that time. Like, we would see it from Bernie Sanders and maybe like Ron Paul, but to get up on stage in a Republican debate in front of Republican donors saying that kind of shit was unheard of. Bro was getting booed. Trump won in 2016 by decrying the bloodlust and warmongering of the Republican Party, but also by speaking to the economic woes of the average working class American. Basically saying, I see you, to people who felt like they haven't been seen by either party in a very long time. Like, I saw people in my life,
a fair
my
assessment.
neighbors and stuff, that were all like Obama voters, like just flipped to Trump, and now like all of Long Island. Long Island is like the
Another big part, I think that Obama sort of opened the floodgates to social media politicking, and Trump was really the first big Republican to be able to fully take advantage of that and use it for campaigning. I'd say that's another big part of it, but he definitely also made a lot of people feel heard and represented for the first time in ages.
Florida of the Northeast, bro. It is like Trump country there now. Before Trump... Oh, my nuggies are here. My nuggies are here. One second.
It's important.
Let's go get my nuggies. It's nuggie time.
Okay.
34-year-old woman, by the way. Mother, by the way. Before Trump, the Democrats basically
Don't worry, doing the nugget dance is more acceptable after you're a mother than before. You get to like up to mid-20s doing like a little cute food dance. Oh, that's acceptable. Falls off after that. But then once you become a mother, get doing quirky things like that becomes more normal again.
Lied on talking about how the Republican Party didn't care about the working class. But eventually, the problem for Democrats was the working class didn't care about them. But now it seems like the Republican Party is going back on all of that and becoming the Bush-era neoconservative party again, right as they're winning, embracing freaks like Lindsey Graham.
So I just want to say I feel good about the Republican Party. I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes. Trump is my favorite president. We've run out of bombs. We didn't run out of bombs in World War II.
Republicans, is that what you want your party to be? Lowering taxes and killing people? We tried that already. To many Republicans, the solution to the affordability crisis wreaking havoc on Americans is simply trusting the free market, working hard, and if that doesn't work, they bust out all reliable.
If you're a young person and you can't afford to live here, then maybe you should not live here. I mean, that is a real thing. Yeah, I know that we've now grown up in a society that says that you deserve to live where you grew up, but the reality is that the history of America is almost literally the opposite of that.
Ah yes, the classic. Just move.
That's a terrible take. Oh, man. You can't afford it? Get out of America. No. Wait a sec. Does Shoe0nHead just repeatedly find clips of foot in mouth? Maybe that's why she's Shoe0nHead. Because all the clips of people she grabs are foot and mouth. Guys, I think I've stumbled onto something. No. Call me Candace Owens because I have a conspiracy theory here.
Just move from Economic Zone 67 to Economic Zone 69. I don't know, man. Maybe some people actually like where they live. Maybe they want to make their community better. This is like the libertarian version of just deal with it when you talk to leftists about crime. Like, no, we shouldn't just deal with it. We shouldn't just move. Maybe we can make the cities in our country livable and safe. Maybe better things are possible, actually. My husband and I moved away from our families because of his job, and it f***ing sucks. It sucks raising kids without an extended family around. Say hi to grandma on FaceTime. Not normal, not natural. When I was growing up, it was like aunts and uncles and cousins and grandparents were just coming in and out of my house, like bringing over food, like, hey, I got...
Yeah. Honestly, I think a lot of that is going to make a hard swing back. I think what we're going to get is intergenerational households again. Because, if housing prices keep going up, you're going to get people living with their parents on average longer and longer. And what you're going to get is the reemergence of it being common to have intergenerational houses. Like, there are lots of countries and cultures where that's the norm. And I think that's, in a lot of ways, healthier for raising kids. Even if it's not the sort of 1950s American suburban ideal. Obviously, we want cheap houses as well. I'm just saying maybe there's this sort of like silver lining there that you can find. Yeah, I don't know.
I would be babysat by my cousins and my aunts. And because we moved away, my kid won't have that. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's one reason many young people are putting off having children. The complete lack of community, the lack of a village. If you can't afford to live where your family lives, just move to fucking Gary, Indiana, where there's nobody around and no jobs and no family and no friends, but hey, at least you can afford a house there. That's not how life should work, Ben. Maybe take a step back and try to understand. Am I doing bird hands too much? You guys have made me so insecure about the fucking bird hands thing ever since this meme. Okay, listen, I'm a woman, okay? We are programmed to scold children. And when no children are around, we scold people on the internet, okay? Anyway, Nick Fuentes is a far-right commentator and a controversial figure to say the least. But his main topic he covers is Israel, which is an extremely hot topic that many other right-wing commentators seem to not want to touch. And the rare times they do touch it, it's them telling you not to talk about it, questioning why you care so much, or shape-shifting into the woke mob they fought against for so many years, calling you names, calling for you to be censored. What's funny is they didn't care about any of Nick Fuentes' rants on like race or women. They only started caring when his rants on Israel were blowing up. Nick recently did an interview with Tucker Carlson which completely ignited.
Look, I think the best way to handle Nick Fuentes is just sort of ignore it. I mean, if you're trying to be against him, then trying to like clap back at him or respond to him or stuff like that is just going to feed the fire, you know? I'm not saying that you shouldn't have free discourse to try and debate the ideas and have the better ideas win out. I'm just saying, if your goal is to put Nick Fuentes back in his place, then the best way to do that isn't by engaging negatively, it's by not engaging.
The MAGA civil war that was brewing on the right for some time now. It got so ridiculous that even Chuck Schumer went on the Senate floor and called for a disavowal of Nick Fuentes. Sir, with all due respect, none. Why do politicians need a resolution in the Senate to disagree with a citizen?
Yeah, can we stop? Can we stop with putting resolutions out to do dumb virtue signaling stuff like that? Instead, how about we have Congress focus on passing clear and consistent single-issue legislation? Now, just going to use Congress as a social media platform? Okay, cool.
Hello, I have gathered you all here today to disavow Hitler Bussy 420. People can't afford groceries, Charles. Ben Shapiro, in particular, has spent the last few months extremely confused and angry about Zohran Mamdani and Nick Fuentes becoming popular in the mainstream, all while his numbers continue to drop. I honestly don't think he understands what is happening here, so I am going to explain to you, Ben, what exactly is going on here. The American dream does not exist anymore for most people. Young people followed advice that worked for older generations, and it got them nowhere. Young people are tired of this stale, moldy, old, dead consensus that has dominated American politics for a very long time. The one that dragged us into all these foreign wars and sold us out for some cheap plastic shit from China. Young people are tired of being told to sit down and shut up and pledge allegiance to the free market in a country that seems to not give a shit about them, as well as a foreign country they have absolutely no connection to. For so long, establishment hacks and establishment shills looked at the issues bothering the people and just kind of dismissed them. Can't afford to live where you grew up? Just move. Don't like that the toothpaste is locked behind plexiglass? Just deal with it. Think it's kind of f***ed up how you work 40 hours a week and still can't afford to pay rent? What are you, some kind of communist? You don't like funding a genocide with your tax dollars? What are you, anti-Semitic? If you don't address the issues of the people will gravitate towards those who are addressing those issues. It's not Mamdani's fault he won. It's yours. It's not Nick Fuentes' fault he's popular. It's yours. The tragedy of Ben Shapiro is that he led a life worshipping the free market, only to lose in the free marketplace of ideas. Now, with all this neocon rhetoric coming out of the GOP, are the Democrats going to pick up the populist ball that they are fumbling? Are they actually going to get their shit together?
I can predict the answer here. It's, no. It will not be a Shoe0nHead video if she does not spend a significant portion of time blackpilling about the Democrats. Okay.
Well, they are trying because they have written an article called Deciding to Win, where after
we'll just
interviewing
decide.
over 300,000 American
That's my strategy in Monopoly. You landed on blue. No, I won. I passed go and collected $200. No, you landed on my blue. You're bankrupt. No, I didn't. I rolled a 6. No, you rolled a 2. I rolled a 6. You all saw it. It was great.
Voters from both parties. They may have finally discovered the secret to winning.
To give ourselves the best chance to win, we recommend the following changes to our approach. Democrats need to 1. Focus our messaging on an economic program centered on lowering costs, growing the economy, creating jobs, and expanding the social safety net. 2. Advocate for popular economic policies. Moderate our positions where our agenda is unpopular, including on issues like immigration, public safety.
Wow. Who could have seen this? Focus less on culture war stuff and focus on what the average voter cares about? Heresy.
Energy production, and some identity and cultural issues.
So basically it took you guys 10 years, millions of dollars, and dozens of Microsoft team meetings to come to the conclusion that everyone has been saying forever. You wasted a decade worshipping at the altar of mentally ill Karens, and now you're acting like, hey, what if we were normal? Is a groundbreaking political discovery. F*** you.
Hey, you know what, Shu? Maybe being normal is a groundbreaking political strategy. Has anyone ever thought of that before, Shu? Have they?
I could have told you all this for free. It is a bad sign that it took you over a decade to come to the same conclusion that my audience has come to like a decade ago. And they're all retarded. Please reflect on this, I beg of you. Also, what do you mean you had unpopular positions on public safety? Like, why would you even say that out loud? Yeah, let's vote for the party that admits it was wrong about the issue of crackheads shanking people in the street. I love this quote from Nancy Pelosi randomly shoved in here.
Winning an election is a decision. You make a decision to win, and then you make every decision in favor of winning.
How deep? How...
Oh my gosh. Try to win? What? Well, honestly, that's not how I play board games. I play board games to have fun. Winning's just a bonus. And also, I also try and keep an eye on the emotional stability and comfort of other people while I play board games with them. Because, you know, while a lot of the time you play board games with people who will not have a good time if they feel like they are not succeeding in any way. So you can't play too good. Why am I talking about board games? Let's just get back to the video.
Provoking. Thank you, Nancy. What would we do without you? Probably win an election.
Democrats have changed our focus. In comparison with the Democratic Party of 2012, today's Democratic Party is more focused on issues like climate change, democracy, abortion, and identity and cultural concerns, and less focused on the economy and middle class. The table below shows this shift. Through an analysis of the prevalence of selected words in the 2024 Democratic Party platform, in comparison with the 2012 Democratic Party platform.
Guys, you didn't need you didn't need a study to show this. You could have just told each other this. My guess, no one would have believed each other without the study to back it up. That's right, I can't believe anything you say unless you have a study showing it, even if it's obviously true.
This whole study is really interesting, but I need you guys to see this chart because when I first saw this, the scream I screamed. So Democrats since 2012 have increased their rhetoric on race by, sit down, 1,137%. On the gays, 1,044%. Their rhetoric on men has decreased by 51%. It is now negative 51%. On fathers, negative 100%. They just stopped talking about that shit. Veteran.
Oh, yeah, you know. The word father, not even mentioned. Well, yeah, because they also made the shift towards gender-neutral language, such as parent, as well. So that's probably a contributing factor in that.
At negative 31. The economy, negative 51, because nobody cares about that, right? The middle class, 79%, but I guess you can't really talk about something that is disappearing. And jobs, negative 47%. It somehow gets worse.
Jeez.
Apparently voters trust Republicans more on the most important issues to them and trust Democrats the most on the least important issues to them. Like, they literally care the least about LGBT, but trust Democrats the most with it.
Okay.
The most popular Democratic policies among voters are things like lowering drug prices, banning stock trading, expanding Medicare, and raising the minimum wage. While the most unpopular Democratic policies are things like abolishing the police, providing free healthcare to illegal immigrants, and affirmative action. You're telling me this for the first time. Democrats, here is some advice for free. You can't just be MAGA light. Why would people drink Mr. Pibb when Dr. Pepper is right there? You know what I'm saying? You gotta bring something different.
That is a good point. Sure, you can shift towards the stuff people care about. But you have to have successes on the books to grow trust in the party. I think a large shift has been caused by the California effect. California is almost entirely run by Democrats, except like up north and east. But like 90% of the population of California is under Democrat governorship at all levels. And people don't like the direction California is going. They say, why should we trust Democrats? Look at California. And that's a persuasive argument to a lot of people. They're like, yeah, hold on. we've tried this stuff that you're proposing in California, and it's not doing great on these things we care about. Whereas they go, hey, look down at Florida. Florida was kind of terrible for a while now, but, you know, it's becoming a more sought after place to live. I don't know, people sort of like Florida now, at least on the East Coast, I think. And you have states like Texas, Tennessee, growing. If Democrats want to win, they need to start at the more local levels and build up a good resume for the voters.
Something better to the table. And that difference should be working class focused economic populism. I don't just want two neocon parties, okay? But all of this is pointless when it's clear the Dems are not changing at all. They're just gonna change their messaging. They're putting pretty wrapping paper and a bow on a big fat smelly turd. There is a chance that the Democrats may win based entirely on Orange Man bad. Again. Which means they might get into office by learning absolutely f***ing nothing.
That's also a good point. At this point in history, Democrats succeed or fail on the federal level by how popular or unpopular Trump is at the time. Which, that era should be ending very soon. And I'm interested to see what shifts come in messaging and trying to get elected after Trump finishes his second term. It'll be interesting.
Again. Then the voters will go, oh my god, nothing has changed, and then they'll vote for a Republican. American politics is just a revolving door of villains, isn't it? Rest assured, whoever wins, we lose. If you're actually gonna do this shit, if you're actually gonna do what you're saying in this little article, you better be going whole hog, not just the tip. I'm talking embracing shoe-cialism. For many years, I have been smeared as many things. Grifter, flip-flopper, fence-sitter, racist, sexist, homophobic, but I am not a grifter, flip-flopper, or a fence-sitter. I'm simply living in 2055. You see, America has been a hyper-capitalist, economically center-right, socially center-left country since about the mid-century. And I know libertarians in my audience are gonna be like, it's not capitalism, it's cronyism. Okay, whatever the f you want to call it, it sucks, okay? So what if instead, and hear me out, what if instead we were a more people-focused, community-focused, working-class-focused, economically left, socially right country? All the data shows more people fall.
Okay, what you're going to need to do, though, is show me the receipts for countries where that works. You can't show me countries like Norway, where they have a huge spike in standard of living and then adopt social policies and become more socialist-y. Okay? They had a giant economic boom before they did that. Okay, you have to show me a country that has a general declining economic turn, where it adopts more socialist policies and improves economics and standard of living. You could be right, but in one of your videos, I want you to show the receipts of comparable countries where they do this, and it works.
Into that quadrant, the populist quadrant, the shoe-cialist quadrant, if you will, than the current system we are in today. If a shoe-cialist party existed, it would be incredibly popular, but it doesn't exist. And that's probably by design, honestly.
Well, you can't just say it would, right? Look, it might be. It might be popular. I don't know. But you don't know either. Of course you think it would be popular. It's shoe-cialism. Shoe-cialism. Whatever. It's named after you, and it's based on what you think is common sense. I would be interested to see if she ran a poll how popular her platform would be. But she'd be polling her audience, so it'd be, I don't know, her audience is pretty politically diverse, so I don't know.
The Social Democrat Party of Denmark has passed many progressive policies that liberals in America would only dream of. Protection from rent hikes, free college and healthcare, carbon taxes, and a very strong welfare system. But the Social Democrat Party also believes in a strict immigration policy. They believe that if immigration is too fast or chaotic, it puts pressure on working class communities, weakens social unity, and—
All right. You're showing me your work here. But what was their economic trend before and after adopting these policies? What was their standard of living? It's a lot easier to adopt social policies when you're on an upward trajectory. Okay? You're saying America's on a downward trajectory. You need to show us a situation where adopting these policies helped fix a country. Not just a country that has these policies and is doing well.
makes it harder to maintain their strong welfare system. Wow, what a f***ing grifter Denmark is. I feel like so many people nowadays are like terminally left-right brain to the point where like they look at issues and instead of being like, that solution makes sense to me, I believe that, I agree with that, they instead go, that's the left-wing solution, therefore I will believe in that. And it's so stupid and hyper-partisan and makes absolutely no sense to me, and that's why I think like a lot of left-right brain hyper-partisan people don't understand me or people like me. That's why they call me a centrist or fence-sitter or flip-flopper or whatever. And it's like, no, I'm not a fence-sitter. I have many strong opinions. You just don't like them. And no, I'm not a flip-flopper just because you don't understand the concept of having opinions that don't perfectly fall on the arbitrary, always changing left-right axis that is American circus politics.
Honestly, I think if you're a person who agrees with a party or a politician on every issue, on every major issue, then you do not think for yourself about politics. Anyone who actually thinks... Anyone who is able to form their own opinions and is somewhat educated, you know what, not even anyone who's able to form their own opinions should not have all their opinions agreeing with all of someone else's political opinions. That just doesn't occur naturally unless you're forming your opinions after the fact. I mean, sure, you could say, oh, well, random Joe over here, he formed his own opinions and managed to come to the same conclusions as the politician on everything. I mean, sure, but the chance of that is ridiculous. And if you have that, I'd maybe take a look at your opinions and reconsider.
There's nothing incoherent about my beliefs on paper. None of them contradict one another. I don't understand. She likes free healthcare but doesn't want to chemically castrate children? She believes in workers' rights but wants a stricter border? I don't get it. Like, where is the contradiction? I'm basically just Bernie Sanders before he got his spine surgically removed by the DNC. In conclusion, MAGA and the Republican Party embracing populism is what made them so popular in the first place. But if the Republican Party's answer to all these issues young people are having is, F you, just move, you're not talented, maybe you'll own a home when you're 70 years old, they're doomed. Like they had a small, brief fling with populism and ghosted it. Just pumped and dumped. Like a fat whore they're ashamed of and won't bring out on dates in public.
As I'm editing this, Trump and Mamdani had a meeting together and it was very interesting.
Oh, yeah. Because both of them are charismatic New York guys. I mean, look, like him or hate him, Trump is charismatic even if you hate him. He's able to control a room. He's able to have a certain level of... I don't want to say aura. That feels like the wrong word. But I don't know. I think they're both charismatic people who are able to appear down to earth to their base and who are both New Yorkers. Okay, of course they're going to get along. Also, Trump sort of... It's weird how much he gets along with political enemies in person. He's very personable. Everything I've heard from meetings between people who are opposed to him and him in private is that he is surprisingly personable.
Disgusting. When Bernie Sanders was out of the race, I picked up a lot of his votes, and people had no idea. When he was put out of the race, I think quite unfairly, if you want to know the truth, many of the Bernie Sanders voters voted for me, and I felt very comfortable, frankly, in seeing that and saying that. I would feel very, very comfortable being in New York, and I think much more so after the meeting. We agree on a lot more than I would have thought.
I'm sorry, this is my new favorite problematic Yowie ship. They love each other. Maybe it's not over, folks. Maybe the power of friendship and populism will save us all. Listen, I want my kids to grow up in a safe and affordable world where they can get jobs and they can start a family and then they can have the same for their kids. And I feel like at the end of the day, that's what most people want, left and right. They just have different ideas on how to get there. It just so happens my ideas happen to be the correct ones, and if you disagree with them, you will be sent to the re-education camp. Do you want one? Do you want a nuggie? Pledge your allegiance to Shoe0nHead, and you get a nuggie.
I refuse
so that was that little video. If you liked it, please subscribe for more. And if you want to help support the channel, donate to my Patreon, link down below. All patrons get every single video uncensored a day early. If you can't or don't want to support me on Patreon, that's fine. I don't care. I didn't want you to anyway.
Baka.
Baka. I'll see you guys soon with a fun slop video just in time for Christmas. Bye!
Alan, that was really fun. I think this ended up going for a lot longer than I thought. I doubled the run time. I doubled it. Alright. Man. That was a fun video. I think I agreed with a lot of the broad strokes of what she said. I mean, I don't know. We're going to have to see how New York turns out. Is it going to be good? Is it going to not? I don't know. I'll reiterate, watch the original video. Links down below. And thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you again later. Bye. All right. Now it's already like 2:30 where I am. I'm going to hop off. Okay. If you're watching this, thanks for sticking around.